I found out my husband had secretly filed divorce papers while I was lying in a hospital bed attached to heart monitors. Not after I got home. Not weeks later. Right there in the hospital. And the worst part? He had already signed everything. My name was on the documents. Our marriage was over on paper. At least that's what he thought. I still remember staring at the folder in my shaking hands while machines beeped softly around me. The room suddenly felt smaller. The air felt thinner. My chest tightened. Outside the door, I could hear nurses talking quietly. Inside, my entire life was falling apart. "What is this?" I whispered. The social worker sitting across from me looked confused. "You didn't know?"
No.
I looked down again. The divorce petition listed me as the respondent. My husband, Eric Thompson, had filed for divorce 3 days earlier. 3 days. I had been hospitalized for nearly 2 weeks after a severe pregnancy complication. 3 days earlier, he had kissed my forehead and told me he loved me. 3 days earlier, he had brought flowers. 3 days earlier, he had held our newborn son. And then he went straight to a lawyer. I couldn't stop staring at the papers. The signatures. The dates.
The lies.
My hands trembled so badly that one of the pages slipped onto the floor. The social worker quickly picked it up. "Mrs. Thompson." I barely heard her, because one question kept repeating inside my head.
Why?
And before this nightmare ended, I would discover a truth so shocking that it would change everything I thought I knew about my husband. My name is Emily Thompson. I'm 34 years old. I live in Seattle, Washington. Or at least I did, until my marriage exploded. Before all this happened, I thought I had a happy life. Not perfect, but happy. Eric and I met 8 years earlier at a charity event downtown. He was funny, confident, easy to talk to. The kind of man who made everyone around him feel comfortable. Within 6 months, we were inseparable. 2 years later, we got married. Looking back now, I can see warning signs. Tiny ones. Easy to ignore. Eric hated discussing finances. He avoided serious conversations. Whenever conflict appeared, he disappeared emotionally. At the time, I thought those were flaws. Nobody is perfect. Now I understand they were symptoms. For the first few years of marriage, life felt normal. I worked as a pediatric occupational therapist. Eric worked in software sales. We bought a house outside Seattle. We adopted a golden retriever named Murphy. We hosted barbecues, spent holidays with family, built routines, built dreams. And for a while, those dreams seemed real. Then I became pregnant. At first, we were thrilled. We had been trying for almost 2 years. The positive pregnancy test felt like a miracle. Eric cried. I cried. We celebrated with takeout and sparkling cider. Everything seemed perfect. Until the 7th month. That's when complications began. My blood pressure skyrocketed. Swelling appeared. Doctors became concerned. Appointments increased. Stress increased. Fear increased. And something changed in Eric. At first, I thought he was worried. Then I thought he was overwhelmed. Eventually, I noticed something stranger. Distance. Emotional distance. He spent more time away from home. More time staring at his phone. More time avoiding conversations. Every time I asked if something was wrong, he smiled. "I'm fine." But he wasn't. And neither was our marriage. The emergency happened on a Thursday night. I remember because it was raining. Seattle rain. Cold and relentless. I was 34 weeks pregnant when I suddenly developed severe symptoms. My vision blurred. My head felt like it was splitting apart. Within an hour, I was in the emergency room. Doctors moved quickly. Too quickly. That terrified me. A nurse squeezed my hand. "We're going to take good care of you." I knew that was supposed to be comforting. Instead, it made me realize how serious things were. The next several hours felt like a blur. Bright lights. Medical equipment. Urgent voices. Then surgery. When I woke up, everything hurt. My son had been delivered early. Thankfully, he was alive. Healthy.
Strong.
But he needed monitoring. And so did I. The doctors diagnosed severe preeclampsia. My recovery would take time. Much longer than expected. For nearly 2 weeks, I remained hospitalized. During those 2 weeks, Eric visited daily. He brought flowers,
Coffee.
updates. He smiled, held my hand, acted like a devoted husband, which is why discovering those divorce papers felt like being hit by a truck. Nothing made sense. The social worker explained how she found them. A clerk accidentally included the legal filing and paperwork delivered to my room. The court had attempted to verify my current address due to ongoing proceedings. Apparently, someone in Eric's attorney's office made an administrative error. A devastating error. One that exposed everything. I called Eric immediately. He answered after 2 rings. "Hey." His cheerful voice made me sick. I skipped the greeting. "What are the divorce papers?" Silence. Complete silence. For 5 long seconds. Then, "Emily." My stomach dropped. That one word told me everything. The papers were real. "Tell me they're fake." He didn't answer. I felt tears forming. "Tell me." Finally, he exhaled. "I'm sorry." The words shattered something inside me. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't understand. "You filed for divorce while I was in the hospital?" "Emily, please."
No.
My voice cracked.
No.
The monitor beside my bed started beeping faster. A nurse glanced inside the room. I turned away. "Why?" Another silence. Then he said something that made even less sense. "Because I found out something." I frowned. "What does that mean?" "I can't talk about it right now." "What did you find out?" His voice hardened. "You know exactly what." I stared at the phone. I had no idea what he was talking about. None. And that frightened me more than the divorce itself. Because Eric sounded convinced. Convinced I had hidden something. Convinced I had betrayed him. Convinced enough to end our marriage while I was recovering from childbirth. Then he hung up, leaving me alone with our newborn son, a hospital room, and a mystery that was only beginning. Because the thing Eric thought he had discovered wasn't the truth at all. And when the real truth finally surfaced, it would destroy everything he believed. For the next 24 hours, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Eric's voice again. "I found out something." What was that supposed to mean? I replayed every conversation we'd had over the past year. Every argument. Every misunderstanding. Every moment. Nothing made sense. I hadn't cheated. I hadn't lied. I hadn't hidden money. I hadn't done anything that justified filing for divorce behind my back. Especially while I was lying in a hospital bed recovering from a dangerous delivery. The next morning, my older sister Rachel arrived at the hospital. The moment she saw my face, she knew something was wrong. "What happened?" I handed her the folder. 10 minutes later, she looked ready to drive across Seattle and punch Eric herself. "He did what?" I nodded. Rachel stared at the paperwork. Her jaw clenched. "This is insane." "I know." "No." She shook her head. "I mean legally insane." That caught my attention. "What do you mean?" Rachel worked as a paralegal, not a lawyer, but close enough to know when something looked suspicious. She pointed to several pages. "These dates." I frowned. "What about them? They don't line up." I looked closer. At first I didn't understand. Then I noticed it. One financial disclosure form referenced documents created after the divorce filing date. Another attachment contained information from only a week earlier. The timeline didn't make sense. Rachel's eyes narrowed. Either someone was extremely careless, or somebody altered paperwork. A chill ran through me. 3 days later, I was finally discharged. Leaving the hospital should have felt like a victory. Instead, it felt terrifying. I was taking my newborn son home, but I had no idea whether I still had a marriage waiting for me. Rachel drove me. Baby Noah slept peacefully in his car seat. The entire ride felt silent, heavy. Then we turned into my neighborhood, and my stomach dropped. A moving truck sat in front of my house. Workers carried furniture outside. Boxes, lamps, artwork, everything. What the hell? Rachel slammed the brakes. I was already opening the car door.
"Noah," she called.
"I know." I forced myself to breathe. Then I walked toward the house. Eric appeared in the doorway. For a second, he looked shocked to see me. Then his expression hardened, almost like he had prepared for this moment. "What is going on?" I demanded. He folded his arms. "You shouldn't be here." I laughed in disbelief. "Shouldn't be here? It's better if we separate now." I looked at the moving truck, then at my husband, then at strangers carrying my belongings. Our wedding photos, my books, my furniture, everything. Without warning, anger exploded inside me. "You filed for divorce. Emily, you moved me out. Listen." "No." My voice echoed across the driveway. Several workers stopped to watch. I didn't care. "Explain." For a moment, Eric looked uncomfortable. Then he reached into his pocket,
Pulled out his phone.
and showed me a photograph. The image made no sense. A man standing beside me, his arm around my shoulders. We were smiling. That was it. I blinked. "What is this?" His face darkened. "Who is he?" I stared at the picture, then suddenly remembered. Oh my God. The man wasn't a secret lover, wasn't a boyfriend, wasn't anyone remotely romantic. He was Dr. Daniel Harris, one of my coworkers from the Pediatric Therapy Center. The photo had been taken at a staff fundraiser, more than a year earlier. I looked back at Eric. "You think I had an affair?" His silence answered the question. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because it was absurd. One photograph, one completely innocent photograph, and somehow Eric had convinced himself I was cheating. "Are you serious?" I saw messages. "What messages?" "Between you and him." I frowned. Then realization hit. Emails. Work emails. Daniel and I coordinated patient schedules, training events, staff meetings. Nothing remotely personal. Nothing remotely inappropriate. But Eric wasn't listening anymore. Somewhere along the way, he'd created his own story. And now he believed it. That night, Rachel refused to let me stay alone. She brought Noah and me back to her house. While the baby slept, we sat at the kitchen table. Rain tapped softly against the windows. Neither of us spoke for a while. Then Rachel suddenly asked, "Did Eric ever show you the messages?" I looked up.
No.
Not one. I shook my head. Rachel leaned back. "That's strange." The thought hit me immediately. Very strange. If Eric truly believed I was cheating, why hide the evidence? Why not show me? Why not confront me? Why file for divorce in secret instead? The more I thought about it, the less sense it made. Then my phone buzzed. A text message from someone I hadn't heard from in months. Eric's father, Frank Thompson. My heart skipped. Frank rarely got involved in family drama. He was quiet,
Reserved.
the complete opposite of Eric's mother, Linda. The message was short. "We need to talk. Alone." Rachel looked at the screen. "What does he want?" "I don't know. But something told me this wasn't random. Something was wrong. Very wrong." The following afternoon, I met Frank at a small diner near the waterfront. He looked exhausted, older than I remembered. The moment he sat down, I knew he was carrying something heavy. For nearly a minute, neither of us spoke. Finally, he sighed, then slid a manila envelope across the table. "What is this?" His expression tightened. "Something you need to see." I opened it. Inside were printed emails, dozens of them. I began reading, and within seconds, my entire body went cold. The emails weren't from me. They weren't from Dr. Harris. They weren't evidence of an affair. They were messages between Eric and someone else, a woman named Vanessa. The conversation stretched back nearly 8 months. Private dinners, weekend trips, hotel reservations, declarations of love. My hands started shaking. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. While I was pregnant, while I was attending doctor's appointments, while I was fighting for a baby, my husband had been having an affair. I looked up at Frank. His eyes were full of regret. "When did you find out?" He swallowed hard. "Last week." The diner suddenly felt silent, like the world had stopped moving. Everything finally made sense. The distance, the accusations, the divorce, the secrecy. Eric wasn't leaving because I betrayed him. He was leaving because he did. And somehow,
The truth was even worse than that.
because Frank hadn't shown me everything yet, there was still one document inside the envelope. One document that would reveal the real reason Eric wanted the divorce so quickly. And when I read it, I realized this nightmare was far from over. For several seconds, I couldn't move. I just stared at the pages in front of me. The words blurred together. Hotel confirmations, private messages, photos, evidence, months of evidence. The affair was real, not a misunderstanding, not an emotional friendship, not a rumor, a full relationship. While I was pregnant with his child, while I was decorating a nursery, while I was worrying about blood pressure complications, while I was lying awake wondering if our son would arrive safely, Eric had been building a completely different life. My stomach twisted. I looked at Frank. Why are you showing me this? His shoulders sagged. Because what he's doing isn't right. There was pain in his voice. The kind of pain only a parent feels when they're disappointed in their child. Then he pointed toward the final document. You haven't seen the worst part. Slowly, I pulled out the last sheet. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then I saw the heading. Property transfer proposal. My pulse quickened. Below it were several notes discussing the sale of our home. The sale. Not after the divorce. Before it. I read faster. And suddenly I understood. Eric wasn't just trying to end our marriage. He was trying to move assets before the divorce was finalized. The realization hit me like ice water. The affair wasn't the whole story. Money was involved. A lot of money. And that changed everything. The next morning, Rachel helped me contact a family law attorney. Her name was Rebecca Lawson. Within 10 minutes of hearing my situation, she stopped taking notes and looked directly at me. Emily, has your husband pressured you to sign anything?
No.
Good. She leaned back. Don't sign a single document. The seriousness in her voice made me nervous. What do you think is happening? Rebecca opened the divorce filing, then reviewed the financial disclosures. Her expression slowly changed. Not surprise.
Concern.
Finally, she looked up. Your husband omitted several assets. I blinked.
What?
She turned the paperwork toward me. There should be additional financial disclosures attached. I stared. Several accounts were missing. Investments were missing. Property information was incomplete. Rebecca tapped the page. This isn't an accident. My heart started pounding. You're saying he lied? I'm saying someone appears to have hidden information. For the first time since leaving the hospital, I felt something besides heartbreak. Anger. Real anger. Eric wasn't simply leaving. He was trying to manipulate the entire process. And suddenly, I wasn't fighting for a marriage anymore. I was fighting for my future. And my son's future. Over the next month, new discoveries appeared almost weekly. Every time we thought we understood the situation, another secret surfaced. The biggest came from Eric's business records. During the legal discovery process, Rebecca uncovered something shocking. Several large transfers had been made from joint accounts. Thousands of dollars. Some transferred directly to Vanessa. Others moved into accounts connected to Eric's business. When confronted, Eric claimed they were loans. But there was a problem. No documentation existed. No agreements. No repayment plans. Nothing. The judge wasn't impressed. Neither was Rebecca. For the first time, Eric's confidence started cracking. The man who had secretly filed divorce papers now looked nervous every time he entered a courtroom. And things were about to get much worse. One rainy afternoon, Rebecca called me unexpectedly. Sit down. My stomach immediately tightened. What happened? We found another account. I froze. Another account? There can't be. There is. The account contained money Eric never disclosed. A substantial amount. Far more than anyone expected. Money that should have been reported. Money connected to his business transactions. Money he had attempted to hide. For several seconds, I couldn't speak. Then Rebecca quietly said, "This changes the entire case." And she was right. Because once the court saw the complete financial picture, Eric's credibility collapsed. The affair had damaged his reputation. The hidden money destroyed it. The lowest point for Eric arrived during a court hearing 6 weeks later. The courtroom was silent. The judge reviewed evidence for nearly an hour. Financial records, bank statements, property documents, transfer histories. The evidence spoke for itself. Eric sat beside his attorney looking pale. Vanessa wasn't there anymore. According to rumors, she had ended the relationship weeks earlier. Apparently, she wasn't interested in staying once legal problems started appearing. Karma works in strange ways. When the judge finally spoke, the room became completely silent. The ruling wasn't dramatic. No one shouted. No one cried. But every word landed like a hammer. The court ordered corrections to the financial disclosures, additional reviews, asset protections, and sanctions related to incomplete reporting. By the time the hearing ended, Eric looked defeated, truly defeated. For the first time, he seemed to realize that actions have consequences. And those consequences were only beginning, because hidden behind all the betrayal, another truth was about to emerge. A truth that neither Eric nor I knew existed. A truth connected to a letter left behind by someone who had been watching everything unfold. And that letter would change the ending of this story forever. The day Rebecca mentioned the letter, I assumed it was just another piece of paperwork. Another financial document. Another court filing. Another detail in a divorce that already felt endless. I couldn't have been more wrong. When I arrived at her office, she handed me a sealed envelope. The handwriting on the front immediately caught my attention. I recognized it. It belonged to Eric's grandmother, Margaret. She had passed away nearly a year earlier. Margaret and I had always been close. Unlike the rest of Eric's family, she never judged people. She listened, observed, and somehow always knew when something was wrong. I stared at the envelope. Where did this come from? Rebecca smiled softly. It was found during the estate review. I frowned. Estate review? Apparently, she left specific instructions that this letter be delivered only if certain circumstances occurred. My pulse quickened. What circumstances? Rebecca looked at me carefully. A divorce involving Eric. For a moment, I couldn't speak. Margaret had anticipated this possibility.
Somehow.
Slowly, I opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter, several pages long. I began reading, and before I reached the second page, tears filled my eyes. Margaret wrote about family,
About honesty.
about character, but most importantly, she wrote about Eric. Years earlier, she had noticed patterns in him, avoiding responsibility, blaming others, making impulsive decisions, seeking shortcuts. She had spent years trying to guide him, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. Then I reached the section that changed everything. Margaret revealed that she had established a private trust years before her death. A trust intended for future great-grandchildren, including Noah. I stopped reading. My hands trembled. I looked at Rebecca. What? She nodded. It's legitimate. I returned to the letter. The trust wasn't enormous, but it was substantial. Enough to fund education, medical expenses, future opportunities. Enough to create security for Noah's future. There was one important condition. The funds would be managed by a trustee until Noah reached adulthood. Neither Eric nor I could personally access the money. The trust existed solely for Noah. I smiled through tears. Even after her death, Margaret was protecting him, protecting the child she never got to meet. A few weeks later, the divorce was finalized. Standing inside the courtroom felt strangely peaceful. A year earlier, I would have imagined that moment differently. I would have expected anger, bitterness, maybe even satisfaction. Instead, I felt calm. The fight was over. The truth was out. The future was finally clear. The judge finalized custody arrangements, property division, financial responsibilities, everything. When it ended, people slowly began leaving the courtroom. Rebecca squeezed my shoulder. You did well. I smiled. Thank you. But the truth was that I hadn't won because of lawyers, or evidence, or court rulings. I won because I survived. That was the real victory. As I walked toward the parking lot, I heard someone call my name. I turned.
Eric.
For a moment, neither of us spoke. He looked different, thinner, older. The confidence he once carried seemed gone, replaced by humility. "Can we talk?" I hesitated, then nodded. We sat on a nearby bench overlooking the Seattle waterfront. Gray clouds stretched across the sky. Ferries moved slowly across the water. For several moments, silence filled the space between us. Then Eric finally spoke. I destroyed everything. His voice was quiet.
Broken. I didn't respond.
He looked out at the water. I kept blaming everyone else. His eyes lowered. My parents. My job. You. A painful smile crossed his face. But it was me. For the first time since all of this began, I believed he truly understood. Not because he had been caught. Not because he lost. But because he finally accepted responsibility. And that matters. It matters more than most people realize. Because accountability is where real change begins. Months passed. Life slowly settled into a new rhythm. A better rhythm. Noah grew stronger every day. His laugh filled rooms. His smile brightened mornings. His curiosity amazed me. Motherhood wasn't easy. Some days were exhausting. Some nights felt endless. But every challenge felt worth it. Because for the first time in years, my life felt honest. Peaceful.
Free.
I returned to work part-time. Spent weekends with family.
Started therapy.
Made new friends. Built new routines. Slowly, the wounds began healing. Not disappearing.
Healing.
There's a difference. Some scars remain forever. But scars aren't weaknesses.
They're proof that we survived.
Nearly a year after the divorce, something unexpected happened. Eric asked to meet. Not about court. Not about money.
About Noah.
We met at a small park. Noah was taking his first wobbly steps. Eric watched him carefully, proudly. When Noah stumbled, both of us instinctively reached out. For a brief moment, our hands almost touched. Then we both laughed. The tension disappeared. Not completely, but enough. Eventually, Eric looked at me. I know I can't undo what I did. I nodded. Neither of us pretended otherwise. But thank you for never using Noah against me. The word surprised me, because despite everything, I had always wanted Noah to have a father. Not a perfect father, just a father willing to grow, willing to learn, willing to be better. And slowly, Eric seemed to be trying. That didn't mean reconciliation. It didn't mean trust was restored. Some doors close permanently, but healing doesn't always require reunion. Sometimes it simply requires peace. On Noah's second birthday, our backyard was filled with laughter.
Friends.
Family. Children. Balloons.
Cake.
Sunshine. At one point, I stood alone near the fence and watched Noah run across the grass. His little legs moved as fast as they could. His laughter echoed through the yard. I felt tears forming. Not sad tears. Grateful tears. Because I remembered the hospital room, the divorce papers, the betrayal, the fear, the uncertainty. I remembered believing my life was ending, but it wasn't ending. It was changing. And sometimes the most painful endings create the strongest beginnings. Eric secretly put my name on divorce papers while I was fighting to recover in a hospital bed. He thought he was escaping a problem. Instead, he exposed the truth. A truth about his choices. His lies. His affair. And ultimately, himself. What happened next wasn't revenge. It wasn't luck. It wasn't a miracle. It was something much more powerful. Truth. And in the end, truth gave me something far greater than the marriage I lost. It gave me my freedom. It gave my son a secure future. And it gave me the chance to build a life filled with honesty, peace, and people who truly valued me. That was the ending I never expected. And it turned out to be exactly the one I needed.